Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another session of the Coffee Update webinar. We have a host of great experts, talking in this webinar today. But before we go into the details, I want to touch on what are the housekeeping rules for this meeting. We have more than 120 people registered, so it's quite a big room. And because of this, we want to inform you that the session will be recorded, so you will have a chance to take these with you. But also, if you have any questions, please use the chat or the question and answer box and note to whom your question is addressed to, and that will help us then easily direct the question to that particular person. So without any further ado, and I want to invite the chairman to give his remarks, and we will continue. Thank you.
Thank you, George, and welcome everyone for this webinar. Maybe before we start, we could have somebody to say a prayer, and then we'll get to business of the day. Who could volunteer to say a prayer, please? George, maybe you can identify, I don't know, because I don't have the names on the screen, so I can't quite appoint someone.
I can ask Sarah Nyaga to do that. So Sarah, you can unmute yourself and lead us in a word of prayer.
Let us pray. Our Lord and Savior, we are gathered in your holy presence this morning. We thank you for the gift of life. We thank you for the gift of one another. We do not take it for granted that we are working for the coffee industry. We pray that we may be able to be leader in the industry that we are working for. We want to ask you, dear Father, to guide the meeting that we are going to have today. Guide the decision makers, guide our decisions, so that we shall be able to give valuable inputs for this beautiful industry that we are working for. We are praying this, believing and trusting in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, Sarah. And once again, welcome everyone for this webinar. I can see from the screen, not everybody, but I can see Madam Nzomo, the outgoing chair of the caucus. And I would like also to take this opportunity to thank her very much for the support she has been giving to the KCP. I see also we have CEC Albert Moniki from Moranga, who is now the incoming chair. Karibu sana, and I will give you a chance to give a few words. But maybe before we even get to that, we know last year we were quite frequent in holding webinar meetings to update all the stakeholders on the status of the coffee industry. We know the vagaries of weather all the way from last year. I've seen this crop behaving in very peculiar way. I hope that I'll also get a chance to get the chair of the KCPA, Mr. Kenywa, to mention something about the coffee plant that has brought us here today. The other part is, of course, the market. We have the market trade, where we'll also hear what has been happening. We'll also get a chance to hear from the Coffee Directorate on what's happening in the industry. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think without maybe wasting too much time, because we have already lost a few minutes, I would request Maria to have a word, and then we can have some opening remarks from Albert. Maria, please. Is Maria with us?
Yes.
Yes, I am. I hope you can hear me, Mr. Karogo.
Yes, we can hear you, madam.
Yes, good morning, everyone. First and foremost, let me thank everyone who has been able to join this webinar with us this morning. And I also want to thank Mr. Karogo for having ably steered this series of meetings that we've had since last year. And from where I sit as now the secretary of the caucus, I really want to appreciate the kind of interactions and the discussions that we've had in this forum, and the interest that the various stakeholders have demonstrated towards the development of the coffee sector in the country. And I'm really very excited because in the part of the country where I come from, coffee is a crop that is really picking up. And like I've always said, this is an emerging frontier for coffee. And I know once we are serious about now broadening the general coffee outlook in the country, there is a lot of room for expansion across the various parts of this country. And I also at this juncture, because now we have the chair of the caucus, I really want just to introduce and usher him in, because as the chair of the caucus, protocol demands that he makes the opening remarks on behalf of the county government. And Mr. Mwaneki is somebody we have worked with. We call ourselves the Tano Tena. We were there in the first regime, and we are also there in the second regime. So we have a lot of experience on what has been happening since devolution. And what we would want to continue to urge our partners, our colleagues from the national government, is that we embrace devolution and make sure that we empower counties as a bedrock for implementation of the various actions and policies, legislation, and standards that we are coming up with. We ensure that we empower the counties and support them in every way possible so that we can have smooth implementation of all the actions and everything that needs to be done as far as COVID development is concerned. So I've not exited the caucus leadership. In fact, me and Mwaneki, we basically participate in all the meetings because the chair, the secretary of the caucus are key players in this. So we continue to be together, and I'll continue to be part of this debate. And I think with that, I want to usher in Mr. Mwaneki, who is a very able CEC, also coming from a region that is very rich in coffee production, to make a few remarks on behalf of the caucus. But Mr. Karogo, by and large, thank you so much for having involved me in this forum, and we'll continue working together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Maria. So, Bon Albert.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
My name is Albert Moniki. I'm the County Executive Committee member in charge of agriculture, livestock, fisheries, and lands from Murang'a County. And I'm the incoming chair of the Agricultural Caucus under the Council of Governors. And thank you very much, Secretary Mary Nzomo, the former chairman. And as she has mentioned, we have been in devolution since its inception. And therefore, we have a very wide world of knowledge on what has been happening under devolution. And I would want to say that we are happy to be associated with the Kenya Coffee Platform. It's a caucus, and we acknowledge the role that the Kenya Coffee Platform is playing in terms of bringing the coffee stakeholders together so that the coffee sector in this country can grow and can be sustained in terms of delivering value, especially to the farmers, because mainly, as you may be aware, Kenyan coffee, almost 70% is produced by smallholder farmers. And of course, we also acknowledge the role played by the larger scale producers. We are therefore very happy today that we have also been able to organize this webinar so that we all bring ourselves together and also appraise ourselves on what has been happening. But what is key and most important is to say that the counties are very, very actively involved in enhancing the productivity and also the success of the coffee sector. As you may be aware, the regulations are now coming to be becoming active, and the implementation for those regulations is almost beginning. It's actually supposed to begin from July this year. And a lot has been done, especially in terms of making sure that the regulations, when they come into play, then they work for the betterment of the coffee sector in this country. The other thing that is also critical that you may have also noticed is that in the past, there has been a lot of challenges, especially in governance of cooperatives, because obviously we are aware smallholder farmers are largely managed through coffee cooperatives, and the coffee cooperative reforms are also, or the cooperative reforms are also already active. And one of the areas that is going to be addressed by the cooperative reforms is mainly in the area of governance, because that is where the biggest challenge has been, and we know it's going to be addressed. Therefore, we are happy because most of the counties, for your information, have really put a lot of effort and resources in developing the coffee sector in this country, both in the areas of farm input, also in the area of availing coffee seedlings to farmers, and renewing and also improving the existing coffee trees and the estates within the farms. So we are fully committed to ensuring that this sector succeeds, and we shall do whatever is possible also to ensure that we succeed. Noting that obviously climate change is here with us, and therefore also working so close with the research organizations, both CARO and the Coffee Research Institute, so that we can also be able to know how do we address or how do we sustain ourselves within this era of climate change, and how do we ensure that we do not lose our coffee or we do not have it change its characteristics, because coffee is about characteristics, so that we can be able also to sustain the market. Therefore, Chairman, I'm happy to be with you. I'll be having another meeting at 10. So by around 9:30, I could leave if you allow me to do that. But I will be on, and I'm willing to participate as much as possible. However, I want also to mention that the coming in of the new KPCU, which you'll see, I've seen it in the program, maybe they'll give us some updates. I've also seen a bit of increase, not a bit, actually massive increase in the prices that farmers are getting. And we are sure now that the overall management of how the farmer is paid after the coffee is sold at the auction is also very important in terms of determining the final price that the farmer gets. Because the farmer, by the end of the day, will ask, how much money did I get out of my coffee that I produced? And that is the bottom line. And so we are happy also to recognize the role that's being played by the new KPCU. It's being managed through government effort, but we are sure that going forward, we are also going to improve in terms of the pricing that gets, or the value of the coffee that gets to the farmer, and that will be very critical and very important. Thank you very much. Back to you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Bona Albert, and we are happy that we have heard your remarks when you are still very fresh on this seat. My thanks also, of course, go to Maria. And now what I would like us to do is to have the chairman of the KCPA, being the voice of the farmer, to have a few words so that we can get to the other serious business of the day. The meeting is supposed to be just 1 hour. So that's why I'm trying to hurry up so that we can get to the gist of the issues, especially on the marketing and production. So can we have Mr. Gekonyo, Peter Gekonyo, the chairman of the KCPA, please, for a few remarks. George, is he with us? George?
Yes, he is. He's with us.
Morning, Chairman.
Hey, morning, Peter. How are you?
I'm well.
Karibu, as a farmer, tell us what's happening on the ground before we get to the other issues.
Thank you, Chairman, and good morning, everyone. I think mine is also to thank the chair and the KCP for allowing us to be able to have this kind of a forum, to be able to articulate farmers' issues, all the sector issues. And more so, I also want to echo the sentiments of Bwana Mwaniki, who is the incoming chair of the caucus. Because also then done what is critical and what is important to the farmer is actually what is getting into his pocket. We have seen some changes in the pricing in terms of the coffee, what is getting to the farmers' pockets, but that is not yet enough. And we also need to understand what are the dynamics that are also contributing towards the changes in the coffee prices. But I also want to make a quick remark on one of the areas that is very key to the coffee production and productivity is actually the issue of weather. We are worried because the threat with the weather is also likely to put us to the same situation like the tea, where coffee production will be like it is being done throughout the year, which we don't know whether it is really going to affect the quality of coffee, because we can see the coffee is flowering. We have pinheads, we have berries that are almost, some are ripe, some almost ready to be harvested. So we are really worried, and I would wish to request all the stakeholders in the forum, the government, that is the national government, the county government, to look into this and try to look at ways of mitigating this, and also help us to be able to cope with the weather changes. Because I think one of the areas that we can probably explore is the area of technology, because most of us as the farmers, and most of the farmers are actually based on the rural areas, and they are also the smallholder farmers. Really, we really, or rather we are really used to following the coffee calendar, and where the coffee calendar is very static. So we really need to deploy some technology that will be able to help us to be able to cope and ensure that we are able to align ourselves to the changes in the weather. The other issue is on to do with the implementation of the regulations. We have the regulations that are the coffee general regulations that are supposed to, which were, some of them were suspended, and I am thinking that they are coming into effect this July. We also have the coffee bill that is also coming. So in terms of implementation, we have seen a lot of gaps, and therefore we would request the stakeholders or the people that are in charge of the implementation to be able to ensure that the implementation is smooth, and also the involvement of all the stakeholders in the implementation. There's also the issue of the coffee cooperatives. We know majorly the smallholder farming has most of the, has mainly been done through most of the. I also need to understand that the people that are elected are farmers, and these farmers probably don't have issues. So we need to build and therefore explore the actual problems where it is, and we are able to address it. Finally, I also want to thank the new KCP for because the competition is also very healthy. Because if you only deal with a monopoly, so to speak, then you are likely to have a place that are more or less contained within a particular area. So if all of us, the government and other stakeholders, come together and explore all the areas that you can be able to improve, to be able to ensure that the farmers are getting money, I think coffee is one of the greatest crop that we can all honor by bringing a lot of resources and creating a lot of employment in the rural areas. and all other areas in the value chain. So thank you so much, Chairman, for giving me that opportunity.
Thank you very much, Peter, for your remarks from the farmer's point of view. Indeed, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to have a situation where we will get an update on what is happening in the market as well as the national production. We had invited also the Coffee Directorate. It's unfortunate from my screen, I cannot see a lot of people those who are participating. And that's why maybe, I don't know whether Chovi is with us. I had also invited the chairman of New KPCU, and I'll give him also a chance to say something. But maybe now, so that we can try to hurry up on time, I could request the Coffee Directorate to give their presentation on the national coffee production. Thank you very much, Mr. Kadago.
Thank you, Chair. I request my good friend George, yes, to put in something. Now, in the side of production, and I'm echoing what Peter has just said, that for the last 2 or 3 years, we have recorded almost a downward trend, and largely because of adverse weather conditions. It has been raining, it started with dry weather, then it rained, then it became cold. So for 2018-19, I think we recorded the highest, which is about 5,000 metric tons. Then it went down to 36, shy of 37,000 metric tons in the 2019-20. And then again, the condition still persisted. So looking at the 2020, 2021, we are not really sure how much we want to have, but we're expecting a just small percentage, which is boosted by the second crop. But the first crop, our main crop, it really went down, and it hit many counties. The worst hit one is Kisi, which I think recorded about 70% down. Then Muranga, and also Meru. At least Kirinyaga tried. I think it dropped by about 3%. On the positive side, Rift Valley increased, largely a few counties, especially in Kericho. Kericho recorded about 13% increase, and then others are in between. So again, our challenges, especially in the real estate, they have actually been a challenge, especially in the urban areas. So and people continue to uproot, people making way for other things, especially in Kiambu and the urban area. So we still have a challenge. Maybe the next frontier will be the west of Rift, and also the cooperatives. Cooperatives, if they continue. George, can you move up? George? Hey. George, are you hearing me? George? What?
George, can you move the screen, please?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry for that. Again, I think because I'm rushing, I think I've gone to that effect. So we are saying, I'm saying that from the time 1987, 88, when we recorded that at least what people call always as 130,000, the trend has always gone down. And this is when the ICA agreement was discontinued. Then from that time, we were hit all the way. As you can see from the graph, the highest was about 87, 8, and then it has gone down, 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 down. That graph should be a challenge to all of us to see what can be done, because it's going down, and I don't know how it can be reversed. But now that we are gone counties, I think it's an opportunity for counties individually to intervene and be able to promote the farmers. Basically, investment in the coffee, was the farmers will always say, we just like Peter said, what is needed is the inputs, and as they say, called Wanjiku, they will require people are not able to buy inputs as such, but if they are supported through the cooperatives, and especially Peter had said, and even the chair, talking about KPCU and the 3 billion, the new KPCU, I think it's an opportunity for farmers to obtain farm inputs at an affordable rate and also on a credit basis, because we can only boost our production if we support especially the growers. And this time, not small also, but even the estates, because they are still our growers. If they are given these inputs on credit, and this is at a better price, then I think production will move up. George, move on. Move to the next one. Yeah, so I have also alluded to production. Sorry, just one more. That slide again. Yes. So I had talked about actually the challenges that is facing production. I talked of cold conditions, also weather conditions, and I talked of the new areas, the new frontiers, increasing production west of Rift. I also would like to mention that the counties of Homa Bay, Kisumu, Siaya, Busia, and Bungoma are coming up with a Robusta. So those of us who are interested in Robusta, and especially traders, kindly focus on those areas. It's now 3 years since the coffee director promoted production in Robusta production, and a lot of coffee is coming in. I think the first coffee Robusta will be sold. Nani will Bidi will be able to confirm either this week or next week from this end of Bungoma. So Robusta production is coming up. So people should look out for this. Then exports. We exported our main export destinations include the US, Germany, Sweden, and Korea. Korea is also coming up in the 4th place, and they have been doing very well. Move on, George. Yes, this table is indicating the production per counties. You can see national production for 2021. This actual national production will go to the counties later on, but contribution by estates and contribution by cooperatives. So you can see we are estimating 38,000 metric tons, and I say this this will be boosted by the second crop, which I expect maybe around 10 to 15% of the main crop. So we are crossing our fingers that may be likely. We'll move on, George. Yes, this one is, you know, the earnings. This is last year, 2019-20. You can see who is leading. I believe this will be available for members to see who is leading. You can see Kiambu is leading. Then Kirinyaga is leading for 2.9 billion. Kiambu is largely estates, but Kirinyaga is largely cooperatives. Then Muranga is there. Nyeri is also not far. Yeah, so you can always look at them just for your information. Move on, George. Next, yeah. And then we are saying, somebody said competition is good. This year, we have recorded actually the highest payments. And what I've just put is an example. So if you look at, for example, in Kirinyaga, The highest paid cherry is 118, and within Kirinyaga, about 29 factories are paid 100 and above. And if you see 29, Kirinyaga has about 73 coffee factories. So if you talk of about 30, you're talking about 40%, and yet giants like Iberico have not indicated their payment. So this one will go up. So this is compares to the last season, 2018-19. The highest in Kirinyaga was 83. This time is 118. Then you go to Nyeri. Again, the highest that time was in the Roine. So this time it is Barichu, Karindutu factory, which is 101. So generally that's about 5. So far, these are not final figures, but so far you can see Nyeri has about 5 factories above 100. Then you come to Muranga. Muranga, they are doing okay, but Muranga also have challenges in terms of production. It went down drastically. So the highest is 91 compared to 71. So if I go down, you can always see Embu is also doing well. We have another 5 factories above 100. Last time it was 71, 73. So move on down. Yeah, all this you can see for yourselves. But interestingly, if you look at the Nandi, maybe you can focus, George. Can you increase people can see Nandi? It's a place called Tuyabe. Can you see Nandi? Nandi, yes. You see Nandi Tuyabe, the rate is 160.
Yes.
Yeah, 160 per kilo. A little bit of this society, they have about 80 members, and they actually, about 80% of their coffee is sold by Tiga Coffee Mills, was 80% was in AA and AB, and a little of E, that means the main grade. So, and their coffee cherry was about 15,000. So it's not so much. Then the next one there was another one called Kasach, which is about 130. That's the next one that I didn't put it here. So you can see it's a challenge. Last year was 26. It was supposed to be 26. Highest in Nandi then was 64. But that particular society, they had paid 26 because they had a date with the CMS. So West is also coming up. So what do I, as an expert, what do I attribute this to? One is the weak shilling. You see, last time it was about 100. Exchange rate was about 100 or 101. But this time around 109, 110, and so forth. So there's that increase or that weakening of our shilling. So that is one of the issues. The other thing is generally I think Mr. Mbidi will be able to highlight more, but I think it's general an increase in prices. I'm asking myself, is it in response to the Brazilian decline in Arabica? Because we are told in Brazil the Arabica declined kind of this season. I think it will go towards September. Well, again, it coincides with the time they are changing cycle, and also biannual production, which is mostly in Arabica coffee. So those are my explanations for this good price. So we speak. I hope it will be maintained. Then George, is any other down there? Production per county? Anything else now?
No, that's the last one. Thank you.
That's the last one. Yeah. So overall, then you can see what Peter had said is every place, even my own farm, There is flour, there is a pinhead, there is the one that I think we'll harvest in April or May, all the way. So we have that challenge. And so I think the expert way is to say, can we feed a tree so that it can improve our production? So in a small way, that is what we have. And thank you for listening to me. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Kadego. And maybe, George, I think it's best if you can pose the chat questions which were given during the presentation by Kadego. I have seen there are a few chat questions related to the coffee production. Perhaps he could expound on that.
Okay, for Kendago, the first one was, what is the impact of all coffee seedlings planted each year? And the second one is, we need figures of how coffee has been uprooted and the amount of coffee lost. That's one of the questions. There are a couple of questions for you, Bwana Kendago. The other one is, what was the cost of production per kilo in that year? I think it's also to try and compare with the amounts of they're getting, just to see whether the farmers are making money. And the last one is, what are we doing about Taita coffee? High quality coffee, but low volume. Thank you.
Picking from the last one, Chair, I'm not sure I'll be able to answer all confidently or competently some of the questions. One is, if you look at Taita, is anybody from Taita listening?
We normally have the
CEC is here. I think I can bring him in. The CEC.
Hey, my friend Davis, you have come at the right time.
Yeah, great. We went
bring him in.
Yes, we went to one time an investment meeting in Mombasa with our peers, Professor Boga. And when the Taita people presented, there was no mention of coffee at all. I tried to push in and say, hey, there is coffee in Taita, and I've always gone there. There used to be 5 factories, Vundanyi, Vuruka, they call them Veruka, and many others. Veruka, yeah, they were Veruka. Ingawa ni W, but yeah. So I think Veruka is the one that is still having something. There is coffee even within that place. What I saw is a majority of the farmers are ladies. I don't know what happened. And it's a high potential area, very high potential. If the county would only move in, I tried to give them 5,000 seedlings one time. I think all of them dried. They know I never planted, so I never went back again that direction. But if we get
Kadego, excuse me, maybe if you can concentrate on the 2 questions. If we have the CEC, Taita, I'm sure he'll give more light on the query.
Fine, thank you.
To Taita. So maybe you can just answer the other 2. And
so the other question, yes, the other question,
okay.
The other question is, we asked about how much has been approved and so forth. That one I'm not able to, because we need a census. We need and for which we don't have, and that's why even our production, not our area under coffee is an approximation. Maybe counties could help us, like Kiambu County can help us and say this is what has been approved. Muranga can do the same. Now that agriculture is devolved at our level, we are not able to say this unless somebody. The law is saying if you approve, let us know that you have approved it. But we rarely get people who write to us and say, this time I've approved this quantity. As to the question of cost of production, I hope someone is listening from coffee research, perhaps can shed light on it, so that because those are the people who do the cost of production. Please, Chair. I don't know whether I've answered all of them.
I think that is fine. Perhaps we can have a reaction from the CEC Taita. Bwana Mwangoma. And then from there, possibly we can move on. Then we will have a Q&A questions after we have had the next two presentations, please.
And Chair, I'll continue. Sorry, I'll be away for after this.
So, George, do you think maybe then, because I see you had quite a number of hands raised up for questions on the presentation of Kadago, and he's leaving. Perhaps you could allow 3 of them, and then we can have the CEC data. And then from there, we have the next presentation.
Through the chair, the CEC Taita seems to have dropped off. He was among the first to join this morning, but he seems to have dropped off. So I think I will let the ones with the hand specifically for Kendago, allow them to ask, but we prefer putting the questions on the question and answer so that then we also have a thing. So there is one of what can we do to improve the coffee quality? And then there is another on how much is projected for 2020, 2021. Kendago, can I allow you to see the questions so that then you can maybe answer them, because they are quite a number.
Yes, but let me answer the 2 of them.
Yeah.
Before you put the questions, those questions, because when you talk of the projection, I think I had put a projection to be 38,000.
Yes.
And what I'm saying, so 38,000 metric tons. And so far, I'm saying what we have milled is 26,000, 25, let's say between 25 and 26,000 metric tons. I don't know whether you can see that, George. And then so far, what has been sold, it's almost the same, 25. But I'm hoping that main crop will stand at about 28 main crop that we'll have. And then about 10 will come from the second crop, giving us about 38,000 metric tons. Now, as to what can be done to improve quality, when we were working as a coffee directorate before devolution, and even now, even with counties, what we normally do is we organize meetings, factory meetings with the growers. Like if you pick a factory, then you have the quality analysis, maybe by their miller. Then you take this resource, assemble the farmers and tell them, look, your business, you did your business to last year in this manner. Your quality was this and this and this, and these were the challenges that you face as a factory. So can we as a factory now come up with a way forward? Can we, let's look at what you went, maybe you did not apply fertilizer, maybe you did not prune, maybe you did not apply protective products, chemicals and so forth. So then each factory will know what the challenge is and be able to handle it there and there, rather than, you know, calling a society, people come. So focus would be on factory so that they are able to read their own resource and be able to improve on their quality. Quality is a factor of investment. And from the farm, number one, from the farm, you improve on the so that you can get your AA. If you are getting 15% AA, you are not doing much. You can see when you get 80, I mean, you get 40, 50%, being in the premium grade, then you are getting money. So that is where the quality will be determined. And factory processing would be another factor, also improving on the quality of the factory, and training also of those people who handle the coffee.
Yes, so yeah. I think Kadago, so that we can possibly try to also save time. Indeed, you have talked of important issues related to the agronomy of coffee. I think the big question from the questions that I see that have been posted in the chat One of the main issues is, of course, data. Having credible data is an issue. What has been uprooted, what has been planted, how come the trade of the seedlings that have been planted has not impacted on the national production. So those are some of the issues. And I think now that we have devolution, we have a lot of this work going to the counties. As a platform, we have tried to work together with the counties to set up platforms so that we can address issues at the county level. I would imagine where we want to be, or the direction that the Kenyan coffee wants to take, is where Kirinyaga is moving. We have seen from the money paid to Kirinyaga people almost, I think, 3 billion. We have also seen their production, which has also been positive. And I think when we talk of Kiambu, if it were not for the estates, the cooperatives are also not doing very well. So we need to question, we need to get to the drawing board, but more importantly, as has been mentioned, data is critical for planning purposes. It's unfortunate that I can't see all the people who are participating, but I know we have gentlemen like Mr. Munyeri from the coffee desk, the chairman, new KPCU, and also the CECs who I'm not able to see here. I know Mr. Kamau from Kiambu was also registered to attend this webinar. So I think what we can do, if you allow, ladies and gentlemen, is I give this chance to the chairman of the new KPCU to tell us what KPCU is doing and the plans that they have towards increasing coffee production. Bwana Kenywa. George, is Mr. Kenywa with us?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, and thank you, team. I think I'll be very quick, brief, actually. I didn't know I was to make a presentation, but basically just to talk through a few points of what New KPCU, or as you are aware, the role it plays in the sector. And I said it's basically three key laws. One is just helps in milling coffee, then secondly, marketing farmers' coffee, and thirdly, administers the Coffee Cherry Advance revolving fund. I think this is something that has been elicited a lot of interest among its members, specifically how can members access this fund, because this fund is part of the larger coffee transformation program. You know, the revitalization program of coffee address many other issues, and Coffee Cherry Advance revolving fund was one of the key pillars that was identified that needed to be improved or included for coffee development in the country. The fund is there, about 3 billion, and members have been bought. We saw this season a bit of an increment, but I think as you saw, the reason why we had a long process, as I explained before. We had a long process before the regulation that governed the fund was passed in Parliament. So we had a lot of people started talking about this fund in like 2018, but it was not until June 2020 that now the whole regulation process was completed. And that is when we saw the money became available for farmers to borrow from like July. And we saw that time that we see the people who had coffee were the farmers from Meru, and we had that's what they were able to access. But then later now this season is the rest of the country were able to access. And this one, as I know I had an opportunity to say here, but I can repeat the three areas, the three things importantly about the eligibility criteria for this fund. Number one has to be a Kenyan farmer. Number two, they must be farming their coffee on 20 acres and below. So it's targeting largely smallholder farmers and small estates. Then second, it says the farmers must be members of cooperatives. So when you are members of cooperatives, you access regardless of who mills or who markets your coffee. However, for a small estate to access, you must have your coffee milled and marketed by New KPCU, simply because this money, the collateral for this money is your coffee. Then when we go to what is the amount that one can borrow, the amount that one can borrow is up to 20 shillings per kilo of cherry. That is, if you look at the back in the cherry. However, if it's already like a parchment level, you can borrow up to 20% of the value of that parchment. And this it's not difficult to really value coffee parchment. Then the other question is, what is the interest? The interest rate for this is 3%. And actually, this is more like a recovered upfront. So if you apply like for 10,000, you'll receive 9,700, the 3,000, the 300 will go to management of that. And you see the application, you go to the website of KCP, the forms there, you can, we say, liaise with the offices of the closest to you, whether the county offices and the rest, and you can get those forms and then you apply and you'll be able to borrow. I think I will just leave it at that, Bonakaro, and then if there's any question I can field. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Chairman, for your input on what is happening. So I think the only people perhaps who will feel left out are the large estates, because you have your minimum acreage on those who can borrow the money. And I think now what we can do, we still have a lot of questions coming up from the chat, but maybe we can give a chance to Mr. Mbidi to give his presentation on the marketing trade. And as you can see today, the main thing was to talk about the production and marketing being the key issues. So can we have Mr. Mbidi for the next presentation? Thank you. George, is Mr. Mbidi with us?
Yes. Let me just confirm he's on the, sorry, Daniel. So sorry, he was not yet allowed to talk. Bithi, you can now.
Good morning.
Morning, Bithi.
I'll ask George to have my presentation. I'm going to be the briefest because I can see we are already past the time. Allow me to begin by talking about how we've seen the coffee prices move, and beginning from internationally. We've seen actually an increase in prices globally, which is talking about this particular season. We began at 103 cents per pound, and we moved up to about 140 actually in March, which is covering mainly our main crop. But we saw it come again down 120.36 cents per pound. But as we speak today, we are at around 134 cents per pound. That is for us, it was a good thing because, as I said, it covered the time when we were selling our main crop. No wonder, as reported from the farmer and also from COVID Directorate, we are seeing an increase, a tremendous increase in the payouts to the farmers. Majority of them reporting about actually over 100 shillings, 100 shillings per kilo of cherry, and therefore we actually we can see the impact. Something that and you can see actually the trend. The 140 cents per pound. Actually, when I checked, it was almost like a four-year rise since actually September 2017. We have never been able to get to that, and in this year we were able to get to that, and we see how it reflected to the payouts. We can go to the next.
And maybe before you go to the next one, Mr. Mbidi, for the purposes of those who do not understand your language here, you know, when you are talking about the global prices, you are talking about cents per pound. Farmers get their coffee at the auction in dollars. and then you're also talking of kilos here. Maybe you can quickly, if you just pick one, when you're talking of 103 cents per pound, what it really means, if it is per kilo.
When I'm talking about 140, for example, cents per pound, that would translate to about $134 per 50 kg for an ABQ AB ABQ, fair average quality. Yeah, but what I'm presenting here, unfortunately, I did not just pick the ABs. I picked across all grades. I wish I had picked only the ABs. Actually, would be doing much more than what I'm projecting here. But if we were to go by what ICE is trading now, then it would be only $3. But you can see we did $6 times 2 of what was selling. I hope that helps. I hope that helps. It may not be enough for now, but those who are able to follow and who can maybe get me later, I can be able to explain further on how we do the calculations. The next one. I have also captured just a summary comparing the same season last year and this year. I can see there's a bit of a challenge from the presentation done by George. But what I would say is comparing up to from October to March of last year to this year, we have seen an increase in the coffee sold through the auction of about 7%. From 271,000 bags, 60 kg, to 200.
George, have we lost Mbidi?
Are you hearing me?
Yes,
Hello?
we can hear you, Mbidi. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So which made about an increase of 7%, as I said. But when it comes to the value that was generated, it moved about 58% up. Moving from about $65 million to $102 million, making a difference of about $38 million. That's a whooping almost 4 billion in Kenya shillings. That can be able now to explain basically why we have some farmers smiling. Something that I remembered after I sent my presentation is again how actually there was also an increment in the grades that were actually presented to the market. And I was able to observe that there was a tremendous increase in the AAs that were presented of about 13 percentage points. Yeah, from actually from 16 percentage points to 29 percentage points, those AAs that were presented to the auction. ABs remain mainly within the same range under APBs, but I also noticed that the Cs were reduced also by about 10%. What does that mean? It meant we had better qualities of coffee be brought in to the market, thanks to the farmers, thanks to the weather that actually we experienced last year. And therefore we had better qualities of coffees coming in. That also explains why we had good prices as well. But the question I keep asking myself is, what is the impact ultimately to the producer, to the farmer, the Kenyan farmer? That's what I've been talking about. Thank you for strangling. So generally, what is the effect to the producer? Again, of course, I said there was good payout, but the question is, how many farmers were able to enjoy this kind of prices that we had? And I said, let me look at how Africa, where we are positioned in Africa. Africa does about 11% of the global production. Out of the 5%, 11% that Africa takes to the market, Kenya is doing about 4% to the world market. And the question I'm asking is, can there be something that we can do? It's unfortunate that the coffee director has left. I hope the coffee research is still around. And the rest of us, I think we need to keep on asking ourselves, for how long are we going to have only very few farmers enjoy, the kind of prices that we are generating from the system? I think that chart can be able to give you the explanation. We still have Ethiopia leading, followed by Uganda by Ethiopia 40%, Uganda 30%. We have Ivory Coast doing 10%. We have Tanzania, our neighbors here, doing 5% of the total production in Africa, and Kenya doing 4%. And I think majority of these people have learned from us, and we pull our socks and see how much we can be able to help the farmer be able to benefit from the kind of prices that we're getting. Maybe go to the next one in the interest of time. The next slide.
George, next slide.
Sorry, the next slide.
It is basically highlights what I have said, where I had ranked the African countries and by what they are producing. And these are coming from actually ICO reports. It's not my own doing. So I'm saying ultimately very few farmers are benefiting. And therefore, where are we in the future? What are we looking into? It is reportedly that there is actually an increase. There's an increase in the consumption in the coming years, which is going to be moving from 164 million bags to 167 million bags in consumption. However, as much as there's an increase in the consumption, when you compare that with the total production globally, there's still a surplus. That may suppress the prices a bit, but because our coffees are usually used for blending other origins, we may still see the demand for Kenyan coffee being high. And so there's hope. Let's continue to encourage the farmers to continue doing what they must do. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Bidhi. There is so much, ladies and gentlemen, that I think we can gather from this kind of webinars. Indeed, we don't seem to have enough time to exhaust the issues that we would like to raise. However, I would just like to mention one thing, that if you expect us to increase production, the issue is feed that coffee tree. And at the same time, if you are feeding it, you are going to increase your productivity. And since we have been having so many programs going on, we have now the work back in the counties. And we hope that we can craft a system within different counties where we can be able to look at the issues of the specific county with a view of seeing how we can increase production. So I think perhaps this time we can set a bit of maybe 10 minutes. I know we have passed the time, but it has been interesting and is equally important to answer the questions which have been posted. So we can have a Q&A session. George, you can lead in that, please.
Okay, some quick questions from Bithi. The first one was, what effect did the blockage of the Suez Canal have on Kenya coffee exports? And the second one is, you have said only a few farmers are enjoying the good prices, even if in the COPs, only about 15% benefit. I think that's someone who was actually giving the exact number of how many benefit. So maybe the one on the Suez Canal, Bithi.
Thank you. I don't know, I'm not sure whether KCTA is here. They would have answered that much better, but I was able to observe some concerns from the buyers, the exporters. And from the way things worked out at the auction, I can say there was very little impact on the trading. Thanks
for that. I don't know, for those that have raised their hands, Okay, I see Dr. Gishuru.
Yep.
Dr. Gishuru, you can, I've unmuted you. You can say
Hello.
something. Yes.
Okay, yeah, you can hear me now.
Yes.
Yes, good morning, everybody, and wish you a safe period. It's getting really hot, the other disease. Now, I just wanted to comment on maybe some other, the impact of what could have happened because of the low prices when I was looking at the data presented by Kandago. So the data is not absolutely incorrect in my view. When we had the low prices of 2018-19, people did not, go back to coffee per se. And we experienced a decline from 44,000 metric tons to 36. That's about 18% decline. So we are still recovering. Unfortunately, as we are trying to recover then last year, we had the complications of COVID-19 and so on and so forth. So I would say initially we were almost getting our ground coming from 30s to 40s to 44, but then we have gone down again. We need to recuperate. During that period, the economy without a lot of issues coming around, still taking care of coffee has not picked on. And there are other challenges coming because of the economic constraint. Currently, those who are picking competitively, like now the main season in Meru, labor is becoming one issue. And people are anticipating high payouts. So the laborers are also asking for high payouts so that they can also meet the basic needs because sources of funds and the cost of goods is increasing. We thank God that during those periods, the weather was favorable. Otherwise, if we had like a major drought, we would have maybe suffered much more than the figures we are seeing. We are seeing now the changes where in the recent times, the expansion zones are coming up. So although we may not have that data well tabulated and isolated, people like Kicho, Nandi are zones to watch. We suppose Trans Nzoia was in Gishu will also pick up. There is a lot of interest like in Nandi also, or Baringo, I mean. And this could be places where to go. The other question I may not be having the answer is when we move from 44,000 metric tons to 36, what was our average per tree? That would be a dimension of how many trees they were they the same ones which were giving us 44 and even more because of new planting, meaning we went to solo production, or does it mean we have still the same average of 2, but the trees are kind of evening out? You uproot some, you plant some. In research, you try to give all the services so that then the farmers can feed the tree so that we can have the production. And definitely the tree will always react. Like we have seen with the good coming back of people to the farms, the quality and quantity is improving like we have seen this season for this current year. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Gishoro. There was another one by someone by the name Elispa. So Elispa, you can talk. Okay, as Elispa tries to get their way, we have also Ephraim Kangara. Ephraim, one second to ask your question. And as those ones continue, I think I read the comments. We need a longer session from Dr. Irongo of Muranga. Thank you for that. Esther Karaoke from the bank, maybe Esther, as the others try to say something, I can also allow you to note. Esther, you're unmuted. And then Frederick Owino says, this is a very informative meeting. I hope the next meeting we can make it slightly longer.
Can we hear about the money trickling?
Esther,
Yes. Can you hear me, George?
Esther Kariuki Cooperative Bank, we can hear you.
Thank you. Yeah, so I was just concurring with what Mbithi has said. We are seeing the money trickling into the farmer's account. The important thing has been to determine whether the money received at the cooperatives is actually going to the individual farmer. And from the payout, the payment schedules that we are receiving at the bank to pay the farmer, you can actually see the rate translating to the kilos that the farmers brought and the money going into their accounts. So I think that has been very valuable, especially holding the cooperatives accountable to the rates they are declaring vis-a-vis what they are actually paying the farmer in their account. Thank you, George.
George, there are some people who have raised their hands. George, are you still there?
Yes, I'm saying they have been unmuted, but they've not said the thing. I think I have Lucy. I can allow Lucy, but the other two have not said anything. Ephraim and Elispa, yeah. And then after Lucy, Martin Motua, and then I think we are way above time. Lucy Morumba.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning.
Yes.
Dr. Ari from CRI has raised a very important issue on production per tree. We have seen the decline from the figures that were given. I still want to go back to the issue of tree census. That tree is what we expect to give us the production we are looking for. I think it is important for us, for the counties, plus even the coffee directorate, to ensure that we have the proper population of trees, knowing what has been uprooted. I've seen some crops that look like cassava. I don't think even if we feed those trees, we expect much from them. So we need to know what needs to be replaced, what needs to be grafted, how do we rehabilitate coffee trees, especially within the cooperative or the smallholder coffee farmers. That to me is very critical, even as we talk about the prices, because the factors contributing to the high prices could be very different. We don't know how sustainable those prices will be. Right now, we are very happy that the farmers are happy, but to ensure sustainability in case of prices going down, that will be taken care of or cushioned by high production. So let's focus a lot on tree census, what we can do to support the farmers to increase production per tree, what needs to be replaced, what needs to be grafted, what needs to be rehabilitated, so that we can increase production. Thank you. Otherwise,
Hello, George, are you there?
Yes, I'm there. I think
yeah, I think we just lost Lucy, but I think, ladies and gentlemen, somebody worked out mathematics here and said that only 15% of our farmers are enjoying the prices for coffee. And I think you'll agree with me, if you are scoring 15 out of 100, you have failed. And so we have failed. And I think why we have failed is just like it was mentioned by one of the participants here, Arthur, who was talking about data. Lucy has also talked about data. And indeed, even where we still collected some data, like in Nyeri, we talk about 12 million seedlings. We need to do this data collection in a scientific way. And I think even as a country, why we are able to assess what we are importing for the vaccine we are importing for the COVID is because we did a population census. And so I think one of the key issues that should be done in the counties is to ensure that we are having the right number of trees. I'm not sure that the acreages which we talk about are the real ones. Even when we do the uprootings, we are not keeping track of that record. And without that, there is no way we are going to know where we are. So it's key that we are able to keep some credible data in the counties, so that in the end, what we have as national is something that can reflect the true picture on the ground. I think you'll all agree with me, for the last over 10 years, we keep on saying how we are doing expansion west of the rift. And the impact of that production is still doesn't have meaningful change. So this all revolves around data. So I think we cannot overemphasize that, and we have our CECs participating in this webinar, and we hope we can think even in terms of where we have set the platforms of how we can collaborate together to get correct information. Now, George, you still want to allow 2 questions or so, then we can conclude.
Yes, I think there was Martin Mutua, if you can. And
yes, George.
Yes.
I think I'm audible. My name is Martin. I work for LDC. Mine is not really a question, but just a concern. One, I also put the challenge to Kenya Coffee Platform, because already now you have gotten enough footing. I think this platform can really collaborate with the government stakeholders so that we have this critical data, because data cannot be obtained without spending money. And I think Kenya Coffee Platform stands in a better position to mobilize funds, whatever they can mobilize. And then we have this credible data, so which can help the country to plan and also move where we are. That's concern number one. The second one is on production, where Kandaga came in. And it's like we are still stuck in the same discussions. And it's as simple as borrowing from what is happening across our neighbors. So basically, like what's happening in Uganda, Ethiopia, government is in the forefront. Like the county government identify the uniqueness in terms of production of coffee. And then we have the seedlings to the farmers and enforcement the farmers to put the seedlings in their farms. And we talk less about the market, because the market is already there for our Kenyan coffee, so that we can change the graph which I saw Kandaga presenting. And it's like we are talking year in, year out about the same thing. So we need to bite the bullet as key stakeholders and see how can we move production from where we are practically. We move from our offices, we go gumboots to the farms and have more coffee, like Uganda is doing and Ethiopia is doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. That's a good word, of course. Then from the market, LDC is Louis Dreyfus. Then we have Lucy Njoroge, and I think then we'll stop at that. Lucy. Lucy.
I think, George, even as you get hold of Lucy, possibly we may have a reaction on the points that have just been raised on the issues of collaboration. And I think that's why we set up the platform, so that all stakeholders can meet and discuss about coffee. I don't know whether Mr. Munyeri is still with us from the coffee desk that is in the Ministry of Agriculture, because he could also point on what they are doing. But as you can see, for us to reverse this trend, we need to work together, all of us as stakeholders. And that's why we have said we have moved from just the national. We are at the county, but at the county, we also need to get ourselves organized to see how we can get things done right. Because it's unfortunate that a neighboring county like Ebu is not maybe increasing production while Kirinyaga, which both of them have more or less the same kind of weather, though not on the lower sides of Embu, they could still be competing in terms of production. So I think we have the remedy. We have been used, our experts have been used to improve production even in the neighboring countries. And it's time that we do it in our own country. George, then you can give Lucy a chance if she's there.
If Lucy is unable, I also see Dr. Kimemia had raised his hand. And then if Munyere, you want to say something, you can also then talk either before Daktari or after. Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
I hope you can hear me. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for this webinar. And thank you for the many interactions that we are able to have. I want to go back to my pet subject on data. And as I said earlier on, and I think the chairman has also reiterated, we are making a very general self-defeating statements as people in the coffee sector. We say we are losing coffee to real estate, and you don't know how much you are losing and what you are doing about it. To me, I think this is a self-defeating statements when they get out to the market, and maybe they may contribute to some of the things that we keep on seeing in our coffee sector. So, Mr. Chairman, I think time has come, and I think I agree that KCP, with other stakeholders and the counties, we can put up a project and be able to gather data on the coffee trees in the county, their status, their production, and later will be approved. We do record, and the later we plant, we do record, so that we have got a strong data to support our statements. Mr. Chairman, we also need to avoid again making these self-defeating statements, saying coffee is produced by small-scale holders who don't have input or don't have what. I think we need to graft our communication message in a more positive way, and we focus more for now on production, productivity, and quality, because I believe the market for Kenyan coffee is there, but you don't have the production. Mr. Chairman, lastly, I think it's really a shame for us as Kenya that we are lagging behind other countries in the continent, or almost get to the level of production as Rwanda. So I think, Mr. Chairman, time has come for us, led by KCP, to make a paradigm shift and retain back the glory of the Kenyan coffee. Thank you, and I hope when we work together, we will achieve our goal. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Dr. Kimemia, for your remarks. I think all of us have that in our hearts, and what we need to do now is, like Zakaria mentioned, we fold our shirts and put gumboots and get to the ground. But even if we are getting to the ground, we also need to have the right inputs so that we can reverse this trend. I think, George, you had said Mr. Munyere wanted to have a reaction.
Yes, Mr. Munyere, you can unmute yourself and.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yes.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. I would like maybe to make some little contribution over and above what the meeting has been discussing. I'd like to say what the role of Minister of Agriculture, mainly policy, and the interventions that we have been doing. What I can report from the coffee desk is the coffee revitalization. And the coffee revitalization, we have the World Bank-led initiative, and then there are other players like FAO, and there's also the Italian agency. There's also other people who are interested in the coffee revitalization. So maybe I could start. Coffee revitalization, we started with the new KPCU, there were revitalization around the infrastructure of new KPCU, and it's actually not complete. So that now the cherry advanced revolving fund could be implemented. The funding was about 3 billion, and then the World Bank funding of 1.5 billion. Some of the money was put into developing infrastructure of the new KPCU. It's partly done, and the process is going on. The other part is now the coffee soil fertility data. We have been discussing with several stakeholders, people in that area. I could start, we had some surveys done by Coffee Research Institute, CRI. We also have some very useful information from IFDC, that's the International Fertilizer Development Center, and the CNLS, that's crop nuts. And then other people who we have been sharing information is TechnoServe, and then FAO. And then we realized that we have several sources of information, data, but we do not have a policy. And we realized that we have to develop a soil fertility data policy, and that is the mandate of the ministry, and it's work in progress. It's very early stages, but we have some useful data from CRI, IFDC, who they use the facility. IFDC saw some funds to do some soil mapping in about 20 counties, some coffee, some non-coffee. And then they use CNLS to do the mapping and then the technology part. Then we have been talking with TechnoServe. TechnoServe, they also have some resources. They have some data which we'd like to bring on board. That's still very early stages. Then finally, FAO, they have some resources they would like to do in around Mount Elgon area. We are supposed to do the project project concept development this year. Before the lockdown, we are supposed to have started in the month of April. So I don't know, they are going to update us. So that is generally the information about soil fertility data and other information that's there. So what have we done? At the World Bank Coffee Revitalization Project, we have studied this data from IFDC and from CRI, and we have proposals of fertilizer formulations for the 8 counties for which the project was supposed to do in the first phase. Before the lockdown, we got those proposals, and then they have to be approved at the higher levels. And hopefully now, in the course of time, we shall get a feedback of what the interventions are going to be. There's also the other question now of the Coffee Bill 2021. It has very many details about the reforms that are going to be there in the coffee, and it has gone to Parliament. And we are waiting now for the political process, that the policy process at the political level to handle that, so that hopefully by June, July this year, we should be able to implement those reforms. The other part is the financing of coffee. Financing of coffee revitalization. World Bank has led with the 1.5 billion, and they say there's possibility of upgrading that financing level. Then there are other players like Cooperative Bank. There are other players like Italian Corporation, and other banks like KCP, Equity Bank. The local banks, they also have a role to play in financing coffee. We hope in the near future this discussion could be opened up so that we could know who has what resources to put into the financing of the coffee revitalization. And that's about all. That's about all from coffee revitalization. What I can say is that what you are doing is work in progress. I can only report from what happens on our ministry. So we are waiting now for the most important is the Coffee Bill 2021 to be discussed at the parliamentary level and the Senate level, because that one has a lot of impact, even the coffee regulations, which are going to be improved. And we are going to, we hope that when all this work has been done, we could move from the 40,000 metric tons to something like 80,000 metric tons. That's our projection. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bwana Munyere. I think we'll all agree there is a lot that is happening behind the scenes, and that's why we would like all the time to have these webinar meetings. And George, maybe you could have even posed the question to the participants as to how long they would want these webinars to be taking, and possibly even the intervals. Because I think there is a lot from what we have heard this morning. There is a lot that is happening in the coffee industry in terms of trying to improve productivity. I know I participated in the meeting that the FAO supported project in Mount Elgon. We also had Rainforest Alliance, which is also coming up with a program in Mount Kenya area. We do also have proposals that have been floated to the Italian government. And of course, we do not forget what has already been disbursed by the World Bank. So indeed, we have support in the industry, but we have to get our act together and show our donors and our farmers how we can reverse the trend that has just been going down, down, down. And like Dr. Kimemia mentioned, maybe it is important even for us to be looking at things in a more positive way. We can keep on saying how we are going down, and that doesn't impact well to the markets where we are marketing our coffee. So I think, George, do you have anything else, or we should come to a close?
Nothing further. We will share the presentation and also the questions and answers so that then the rest of the team, and this video recording will also be available at the website. Thank you.
Do we still have the CEC Kiambu, Mr. Kamau, with us?
That is Kamau. Let me see.
Yes, I saw him. I saw him on the list.
I was saying this because, you
Joseph
know,
Kamau, yes, I can allow him. Yeah.
Allow him because we would like to hear, you know, in Kiambu, we are talking of them leading in terms of production, but possibly he can just give a small insight. Yes, it is in Kiambu where we are uprooting the coffee and having the concrete story buildings, but we are saying they are the ones leading. So who is producing that coffee? Perhaps he can tell the participants here. Mr. Kamau? George, have you unmuted him?
Yes, yes.
Or maybe he's not there. That's something we can take up for next time. But so I think, ladies and gentlemen, we have really extended on the time that we had put for this webinar. It is noted that people would like more time. Indeed, when you look at it, we have a lot of other activities that take place in coffee. We have not talked about logistics. We have not talked about the management agents who are also involved, especially in the running of estates. And we would like all the time when we look at the industry to bring all the stakeholders to tell us what they are doing and the challenges they are finding, and also looking into ways of how we can improve our production. So we are hoping when we have the next one, we'll bring in more information as to what is happening and what is being done in various parts of the county. So I think, George, with that, you can possibly get someone. I don't know whether we have Bwana Duo with us. He could give some closing remarks for us.
Yes, he's there.
Okay.
So Duo.
Thank you, Chair. I think I appreciate the contributions on the webinar and what has come out from the whole thing.
George, is he still there?
Sorry, Robert, maybe unmute again. Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. My point of entry was from the contribution. I think the counties have a very big role. One of them is actualizing and getting the regulations in place. The other one is data. Data has come out to be a challenge. We collect data and the current data that we have, the credibility of the data, and possibly through KCP, I believe that if we're able to generate like a template which could be shared or guided through the caucus, where Waziri Mwaniki is now the chair, this information could be cascaded to the counties. And I believe it is not hard. We did the census for Nyeri Coffee. I know it is some years back. We need to review, but that gives us a basis of at least the census or the current status of the trees that we have. So I think it's a question of getting this information together. The other one is as the forum has come up with is it is very impressive when we get prices of coffee going up and farmers getting better returns for their coffee. We need to dig deeper and see the exact reasons why this one is and take advantage of that and provoke our farmers and support our farmers, especially through the county forums, so that they take advantage of this and see that coffee is still a profitable enterprise. So I think this forum was very critical, and it is my hope that we shall have maybe one, based on the agreement that will be there, we should have one maybe in a month until we're able to exhaust maybe some of these issues. Otherwise, I appreciate being in the forum and I wish all of us well. And I appeal to all of us to keep safe. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Waziri. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, if you allow, yes, we have gotten the message. If it is possible, we have these on a monthly basis. And possibly we can extend it to 2 hours rather than 1 hour so that we can try to exhaust the questions that come in. I think ideally, the more we would have them closer, the less we would have time to spend when we need to do a lot of discussions, because most of the answers will be done during those sessions. So I take this opportunity to thank all of you for participating, and we look forward to collaborating with you, especially in the formation of the platforms. We are happy as the Kenya Coffee Platform to work with the counties and to guide them and to help them out of the experiences that we are having on how we can formulate these platforms. So with that, I would like only to close by saying that we are also talking to World Coffee Research with a view of also trying to see how we can address the issues on data on nurseries. That is something we have been in talk with the duo, the representative here, and we'll keep you posted. So thank you very much. You have a very good time ahead of you and a lovely weekend. And as you can see, you can't buy happiness, but you can buy coffee. And that's pretty close. So with that, thank you very much. George, do you have somebody to close with a word of prayer?
I think, Chair, we can ask maybe Faith to lead us. So Faith, I'll unmute you. Thank you. Faith.
Hearing some noise.
Are you sure she's with us?
We can hear you now, Faith. Continue.
Okay. Thank you, George. Let us bless our God for the good session that we have had since AM. Our Father and our God, we want to thank you and bless you for your faithfulness. We sought your guidance and your hard holding through the meetings. And we want to thank you for each and every participant that has taken place, has done presentations and reacted to the issues that concern you. We continue seeking your wisdom, your guidance as we partake this noble exercise, and we pray that Father will give us strategies that are going to turn around our coffee sector. In this time of the COVID-19 pandemic, we pray that God will continue protecting each and every one of us. We commit even KCP to your very ones, and we pray that God, your wisdom is going to be upon them and your favor is going to be upon them as we depart to our different directions and destinations and also our workplaces. Father, bless us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much, everyone, and we look forward to the next webinar. Asanteni.
Thank you too, Dr. Karogo. Well done.
Good day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye all.